Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McCluskey, and on this video, which is part 3 of my series called Learning Theory Breakdown, I'm going to be continuing to connect dots as it relates to this very popular idea that training is a learning-based exercise. And again, I want to show very clearly, based on how this idea is applied, how it is or why it is that perceptions of dogs don't change based on the superficial way in which trainers are building the picture by way of motivating responses and with the focus on the sit down, come and stay, without considering what underpins those responses themselves by way of connecting the dot in terms of relationship, in terms of dogs as social animals, in terms of of their decision making process, how it's governed and influenced that way, how dogs connect with us at that level as pack animals. And again, in terms of jumping right in once dog owners are experiencing a ongoing relationship problem. Again, understand this issue about control, relationship. But again, using the parenting example, as the foundation of understanding. So everything I say on these videos, I encourage you to consider the parenting example to help you navigate, why it is that this very popular idea is so problematic for so many dogs and owners based on how it's applied. So again, my last video I talked about the sit down, come and stay as the kind of default, focal point as a standard versus a interaction-based approach. Understand that my focus is on specific interactions that dogs come into agreement with, with which reconcile the role of influence being part of the equation. Just like, again, going back to parent example, consider parental influence, how that's achieved by way of how you're invested, dialed in, and proactive, in terms of, especially once a child's already become selfish, in terms of advocating and moving the relationship forward in a positive way. Versus, again, back to the parenting example, just pulling out the motivators, right? The Xbox games and things that the child desires and wants, which we're going to talk more about the issue about motivators here in a moment, and simply focusing on the good actions part of it, and just selling it that way, as is, without any depth, without connecting dots the right way, and suggesting that, you're good to go. You can trust appearances that way, again, which is a faulty way of marketing this idea. Again, very popular with how this is sold because, again, it plays off of people's feelings. Understand that, when people are struggling with a relationship with their dogs, the common thread is typically a more emotional connection. So this is going to be very desirable, to approach training this way because you get the pet all over your dog. But again, like I said, if you're petting on your dog at certain moments, then you're assuming something. Just think about what I'm saying. If you're petting on your dog at certain moments based on certain responses, then the trainer or the individual is assuming something. Now again, I show why these assumptions are flawed based again on how this idea is applied. Just like, again, the selfish child could make their bed, pick up their toys, but again, based on the superficial way in which the individual is building those responses at the very beginning, like 5 minutes into a relationship problem, and then thinking that that is the relationship or the child's motives and their attitudes changing that quickly. Well, you start to consider that probably isn't the case at all. Which is what's going on here. So again, it's all about understanding, again, being proactive. These are some of the themes here. But again, in terms of even when I talk about more about motivators, the depth as to what you really consider using motivating agents, and even without the motivator being present, control itself, based again what's signed off on in the relationship, becomes its own motivator in terms of going to, say, even my parent example, going to the same parent over and over again, and again based on what's already been established. It's like writing a relationship contract. So again, just because you don't see a motivator and you choose to follow this path doesn't mean that things, and this is where you talk about extinguishing the motivator, extinguishing the treats, right? You hear those words being thrown around, but again, think about the association to that, what's already been agreed upon throughout And so jumping in this way, it creates that same scenario, same problem. So even using, this is why you use treats or use certain motivators indirectly, it can still present a problem because the dog's mind is jumping. I'll do A, B, and C to get to D. So the only way to halt this, okay, to make sure truly you're feeding in the right way, is through an interaction-based approach, which again reconciles the relationship properly. So again, we go to this whole issue again, talking about the thing here about bribery, okay? When I talk about bribery, I put that word out, where's that line? This is where you see a lot of these trainers, there's a lot of confusion out there as to when, motivating dogs the way that trainers are doing it becomes, bribery. It's to understand at the very beginning how you're jumping into a relationship problem and motivating, generating responses that way. Because understand something here, when I'm doing training, I'm not focused this way on positions that way. Okay, if you watch my board and train videos, I'd encourage you after, again, really watching this video series and then go back and look at, my video content, it'll start to make more sense, okay, as to why I do training the way that I do it. But understand something here, I'm dialed in differently, okay? I'm not, people, trainers will look at my videos and absolutely go crazy because it's like, why isn't Dale rewarding the dog? Why isn't Dale motivating the dog that way? Well, consider everything I'm saying here. Okay, so again, going back years ago at the very beginning, asking the tough questions at the very start. See, this is the thing that's lost on the dog training world because people have jumped into dog training and just, taken a hold of this idea and even tried to build on it through balanced training, not considering there's a problem, okay, by way of how trainers are motivating dogs to respond at the very beginning and how that plays into this issue about perception of dogs not changing at the level that people assume that they are, because they're not interacting with dogs in such a way, okay, to reveal the truth, okay, they're going by appearances and they're basing things on assumptions. This is why there's so much confusion in the dog training world. So again, this whole thing about bribery, understand, this is what's going on, is the same thing, going back to the parenting example. When does bribery become bribery? But think about the relationship side of things, right? Context. You have to walk this back to, the parenting style itself, and start to look at those dynamics. Very interesting because, again, understand here, learning the way that it's being presented in the dog training world changes the focus, okay? It's just the focus onto the dog. And so this is why when perceptions of dogs don't change at the level, guess what happens? The out is right here, okay? Blame shifting. That's very, very common in the dog training world. Understand that both balanced trainers and force-free trainers are engaging in blame shifting. And, you could look at, again, I put another video out a while back talking about, I call it the relational spectrum, comparing balanced training to force-free training, which is better, which is worse. It's a spectrum. Okay, understand, it's all bad in a way because it's all going to result in some level of blame shifting based, again, on, motivating dogs that way. So understand, when I'm doing, we'll talk more about this as I start to really cover off on this whole thing about learning theory. I'm going to talk about some other concepts here, such as counter conditioning here on my next video, the context of agreeableness. Okay, this is all going to start to really make sense as we go through all this. I'll shift and focus more and more onto the interaction side of things. I'm going to go through all of it as well. But again, looking at this and really starting to ask some serious questions as to why it is that this is so popular. Because understand, this plays off of people's emotions. So again, this is very attractive to people who already have a certain way of thinking, because it leads people into believe that you don't have to change your parenting style. Okay, that you can trust what you see. And what I show very clearly is no, you can't trust what you see. And this is why the statements such as, there's more than one way to train a dog. Okay, you hear that put out a lot. Even my balanced dog trainers can't even call out the force-free side of things because they're in agreement. Okay, understand, they're all in agreement with, jumping in this way. And so this is why you get all this confusion. But see, I pin this down and say, no, this is the problem here, based again on how trainers are motivating dogs that way. And I'll get more, even again in my next video, we're going to get more into some of this and break this down even more, even from the balanced training side of things. So again, I encourage people to really think about what I'm saying here. Understand that, again, the interaction-based approach is a way to avoid all these issues. Okay, understand people are struggling in a relationship with their dogs is because of what this represents based on jumping in that way and trusting appearances, focusing in on positions that way. That's not the way to go. So again, I encourage you to check out all my videos. Again, after watching this series, you go back and watch my board and train videos. They're definitely going to make more sense as well. Thanks for watching.